Maybe if it had gotten to 5 rounds, Kamaru Usman would have gotten an edge over Khamzat Chimaev. A lot had reservations about the outcome of that bout. But let's hear from an MMA commentator, Kyle Dimond, who is joining us all the way from the UK. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us on the show today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we did see that go down. Kamaru Usman stepping up in weight, 185 pounds, with Khamzat Chimaev. Now, this is Usman coming from a loss from Leon Edwards, so it's just back-to-back loss for Kamaru Usman. Before this bout, he did say that he was ready to test the invisibility of Chimaev. Did Usman really test the invisibility of Chimaev there? Because a lot had contention saying maybe if this bout had gotten to 5 rounds, would have seen the best, or the whole decision would have gotten in favor of Usman.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that standpoint. We learned a lot about Chimaev that we didn't know beforehand, and that's what you get when you go in there with a guy that is as good as Kamaru Usman. He's going to ask you questions that you've never been asked before. So yeah, I think that we learned a lot more about Chimaev in this fight, and if it had gone 5 rounds, it could have got very interesting after those first three.
All right, Kamaru Usman is known to have a very great defense in the octagon. He's rated 97.3%, and that's a great one. And he has faced tougher grapplers before in the octagon. How did he fare against Khamzat in just 3 rounds? How did he fare? Saying if it had gone further to 5 rounds, maybe he would have grappled more, taken the takedowns more, because we had seen that scoreline 29-27, 28-28 in the third round. How did Kamaru Usman fare in this bout against Chimaev?
I think the later rounds was where it got really interesting. Chimaev was very successful in the grappling early on, whether that's to do with Usman being a late notice opponent, whether it's the fact that he's gone up to middleweight and Chimaev is naturally the bigger guy of the two. He was able to completely impose his will in that first round, but it did seem like he got tired quickly. And there's been some reports about him breaking his hand in that first round, or his wrist rather. So I think Usman did okay in the grappling. He will kick himself for that first round, which ultimately cost him the fight in a lot of people's eyes.
All right. Looking at them social media, I did see a lot of commentators saying Khamzat will have an advantage due to Usman's poor knee, the state of his knee. A lot were saying target that knee and you would get Usman down on the floor. You would take him down and having to take that bout so you can have a shot against Strickland. Will you say the late knee problem got the hold or got the best of Usman in this bout?
I don't think so. I think that Usman didn't lose any stock by taking this fight. Of course, when you step up on short notice, less than 2 weeks, people are going to look at it as no risk anyway, because if you lose, well, you took the fight on 2 weeks notice. It's not a big deal. But I thought that he was very competitive with Chimaev. And like a lot of people have said, if it had gone 5 rounds, then who knows which way it could have gone. So I think Usman did himself credit, not only for taking this fight, but his performance in the fight. So I know that he's had a few losses in a row now, but I don't think this has hurt his stock all that much. If anything, I think that people are realizing what an incredible guy Usman is for even taking this fight in the first place.
Okay, 10 days notice. Others say 11 days notice to be a replacement for Paulo Costa. But there was a short for the winner of this bout, this middleweight bout, to face the champion in the middleweight division, that's Sean Strickland. I was written for Usman, so we could see how Usman could get back to winning ways and maybe get a shot at taking the bout against Strickland, because he has faced Strickland before in 2017, and he dominated Strickland in that encounter. But what lies ahead, Kyle? This is Khamzat having to take on Strickland, the champion in the middleweight division.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. I think that before Khamzat fought Usman, I would have been a lot more confident in picking Chimaev to beat Sean Strickland for the middleweight title. But Usman, like I said, I asked him some questions that we haven't seen him be asked before. And I think Strickland could probably do the same thing. So it's a more interesting fight after the fight we got last night. They also used to train together as well. So that always makes for some interesting stories going into the fight. So I expect that to be a really good fight. And I'm excited to see what's next for Usman as well.
Okay, for Usman, he is coming from a back-to-back loss. What would this do to him going into the next fight? And who do you think would be a good match for him to get back his confidence?
He's spoken about right after the fight. He said about fighting Dricus du Plessis at UFC 300. Dricus was the #1 contender for the middleweight title up until last night. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of if he wants to fight for that middleweight title again soon, get that opportunity back. And I think that him staying at middleweight is a good idea. We've seen. Of course, we have UFC 296 coming up where Leon Edwards will defend the welterweight title against Colby Covington. We've seen Usman fight both of those guys multiple times. I think I'd be more interested for now at seeing him stay at middleweight and see what he can do with a full camp at middleweight without taking a fight on 2 weeks' notice. Because, like I said, I was impressed by what I saw.
All right, I was also impressed there, coming from a loss in the hands of Leon Edwards. But we'll be hoping to see what lies ahead for Kamaru Usman and who he gets to face next in the octagon. Dana White saying a short 4 cams at Chimaev there against Sean Strickland. Thank you so much, Cal Dimond, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you very much.